Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves.
How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar, and I'm back at New York Comic Con with Gary Frank and Bryan Hitch. How are you gentlemen doing?
Very good, thank you very much.
I'm absolutely terrific, thanks. Great show so far.
I had no idea how tall you were, Bryan. I would have brought a stool had I known.
I was much shorter yesterday.
So I got to interview Jeff Johns, who both of you worked with, but I want to know how both of you got involved with Ghost Machine. How did that start? So Gary, you've been there with Geiger since day one.
Yeah, Jeff and I, after we finished work with our DC stuff, we went with Geiger. At that point, I didn't think there was really the idea that we're going to have something which grew to this stage. But we were just doing a create our own book, and then gradually it sort of grew out from there.
So when did the idea of, okay, we're going to do something that's create our own, let's have it published through Image. When did that become, you know what? Let's actually make it something bigger. Like when did the Ghost Machine actually start being put up around?
Well, I think Jeff had ideas for other stores and was still kind of talking with Bryan and was talking to Jason, and so I think there was always the idea that maybe those books would also come somewhere down the track. But in terms of like the actual structure and how thorough everything has been kind of like built, that was.
It was very gradual.
Yeah. That just came. It was like a learning experience. I mean, we started out with an idea, and then we could see that there were complications and other possibilities, and that gradually the thing could be made kind of more. What would be the word? I don't know.
Well, it became more of a business than an idea at that point, didn't it? Because it's a properly built, properly constructed, properly worked out business company, just like DC and Marvel in that respect.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because we're creators, so we generally don't think of these things, but Jeff was always thinking about how things could be done better, and then other people kind of were brought in, and they kind of brought other ideas and other ways that we could maybe make this thing work.
So you wouldn't say it's like a pyramid scheme that guys are bringing other people and they're under them. This feels more like a bunch of creators that love working with each other, having fun.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, you know what? I've got a story to tell, but I don't want to do it about Wolverine or Superman. I kind of like to do my own thing.
Yeah, well, it's not a pyramid scheme either in the fact that we kind of like at launch we already had everybody at the books, the roster, everything was there. So it's not like we're kind of bringing things into to go underneath. Like I said, the time that it took those years from when we left DC and started with Geiger to when we actually launched last year. Everything was very, very thoroughly worked out. So at the point where we announced last year, we already had the plan very well constructed.
Bryan, when did you become attached to the projects here?
I suppose initially it was about 3.5 years ago when Jeff and I first created Redcoat and what became the 80-page giant, the Geiger 80-page giant. So Geiger had already come out. Jeff and I had talked about doing some projects at DC, and for one reason or another, we just didn't quite get them to the point where we felt like we really wanted to work on them. But this idea, Redcoat, came up, and we introduced him in that story as part of Geiger's world, with a hint of his origins in the 18th century. But he's become a very different character since that. That was essentially a kind of one-and-done idea for a miniseries about somebody who was an immortal Boba Fett that was a bounty hunter through different periods of time and couldn't die. And it just became a far more interesting and far more complicated thing as time passed on. Then Jeff had other things to do, I had other things to do. Jeff was doing Stargirl, the TV show, so that we kept putting back. And the more we put it back, the more we thought of, the more ideas we had, and the more the character especially developed. And so, I mean, it took a year for the business to actually get properly built, say May to May, for example. But I suppose I began proper discussions with these guys almost 2 years ago now. In fact, we're coming up to the end of so it was about 2 years ago it began to be. I mean, it wasn't called Ghost Machine then, but it was. Why don't we? No, we think there's a better way of doing the create our own model, and that began an exploration as what that could actually be. There was a light bulb moment later that when Jeff started talking to the right people, but it was such a long period of development and osmosis that we keep saying it couldn't have happened any differently because it could only have happened the way that it has happened. But had we done anything differently, this would not exist in the way that it does exist. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't do Redcoat back then, because then it wouldn't be this, and we wouldn't be plotting through issue 50 or 60 right now. So
that's an awesome story. You couldn't have pick two of the greatest artists.
Oh, thank you.
You guys are amazing. Oh my gosh, your work. All the way back, I remember. I've been a huge fan of yours. Then when I came back to comics, my buddy was like, "You got to read this book called The Authority." I'm like, that's not. What is that? Justice League? It's not X-Men or Justice League. And you brought this widescreen cinematic feel to art that just it's kind of become a thing now. All these beautiful spread pages and stuff.
It definitely was a different energy of the time. That followed by the Ultimates kind of cemented a certain approach to superhero comics, which kind of has bled, of course, into the Marvel movies
and not just
comics. So, although it's not an overt credit, it's clearly, both the design and the temperament of them. And I know Kevin was giving the Ultimates to everybody to read that was working on the films, because that was as he put it, the proof of concept for how a movie could work. So, it was certainly of a time. I mean, if Mark and I did the Ultimates today, it would not look like it looked. It wouldn't feel like it looked. It was a post 9/11 book, and it existed as pop culture only ever does. It can only ever exist in the time in which it's created, because it's you as a person. The work you do creatively is influenced by the world around you all the time, unconsciously as much as anything. You're not trying to always reflect the world around you, but it is there.
When working on Ghost Machine books, how much as artists do you have? How much input do you have as an artist as far as the story?
Jeff's very collaborative, so a lot. Everything kind of comes from discussions and spitballing and stuff like that. So Jeff's really open to ideas. If he doesn't take an idea that one of us suggests, there's always a reason, and he'll explain why. So none of us, I think, feel creatively frustrated from that point of view. We feel very much included in the creative process.
Same for you, Bryan?
Yeah, Jeff is by far the most collaborative writer I've ever worked with. It's something he invites, he wants it, he loves to work in that system. Jeff writes, like everybody else creatively, they kind of work in, there's a period of isolated productivity, but for Jeff, creativity is a group dynamic, especially with the people that you're working with on that project. It's not something you do in isolation, so he wants you involved.
I think stories, not just comics, but stories in general, work better when it's a collab, like a big collab, like nobody just taking credit for everything, right? Which we've seen happen a lot, not just in comics, but in movies. It's like,
well, these
just one person's vision.
All these projects, all these books, all these characters are co-creations. They're not created by one person in isolation. So they couldn't exist without the unique creative partnerships we've all developed, from Pete with Peter and Francis, and Jeff with all of us. It's not, none of it is just here's my script, do as you're told.
And also colorist Brad Anderson and Rob Lee, who stood over there on letters, and Brian Cunningham, who also has creative input into the thing. I mean, it's definitely a situation where there are a lot of heads contributing something to the work.
How far in advance? Thank you for that, man. You didn't miss a beat. How far in advance do you guys plan for stories? I'll start with you, Bryan. So you got the mic.
Jeff and I'm drawing issue 8, Jeff's writing issue 9, but we had ideas well into the teens and the 20s. Then Jeff said before I got on the flight, I've had some ideas which I'll take you through to It's
Ivan, come on. Come on, Ivan.
Sorry.
So good to see you, man. Good to see you. Anyway, we're doing an interview, but you can stay. Yeah. It's all right.
So
let's make some space.
You want to join us, or is that? I'm in the back. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Yes, come on in there. Is he in the shop? Actually, I'll switch you. I'm usually right here. I was just talking to these gentlemen about the process of art.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Not at all.
It was an accident. I was so focused to take off my luggage.
Who flew the furthest to get here?
Sorry?
Thank you.
Where did everybody come from?
Brazil. I'm Brazil.
Okay.
Italy.
Italy?
Yeah. London, we got Peter Snæberg in from Denmark. He comes from Copenhagen.
Oh, maybe Denmark might be the furthest place.
Well, yeah, there's, you were about 9-10 hours, weren't you? Mine's 7 hours. Gary's about 9.
Supposed to be 9 and ended up 11, but yeah.
So I grabbed him on because I needed somebody more my height to join me really quick. I just wanted to say hi, man. I got to interview you, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks so much for support, and sorry again, folks. It was a big mistake.
No, it's wonderful.
I'll let you with your interview.
We're about to wrap up.
Great guys.
Yeah, they're good guys. Big fan of everybody's work. So, what can you all tell us about future works that you will be doing? It is exclusive to Just Ghost Machine, right? Not working for anybody else, covers, nothing?
Nope.
No, we're all, everybody in the company is exclusive. So,
I mean, we all own the company, so it would seem to be bad form to work for somebody else's company. But as far as we're concerned, Ghost Machine is the rest of our careers. That's it. So
any other work outside of Geiger that you might want to explore?
maybe one day.
Okay.
Maybe one day. But yeah, at the moment I'm happy with doing Geiger. I get to do like variant covers for the other books in the line.
Yeah.
So I mean, if ever I feel like a pulse from Geiger, I can always do something like that. But I just don't feel the urge to be doing anything else.
Bryan, what about you?
Jeff and I have plotted through issue 50 on Redcoat, and we were just saying last night that maybe the 100 issues we had in mind won't be enough. So, and whilst there are things I'd like to do, Redcoat is, I will draw every issue of the Redcoat series. That's as far as I'm concerned.
So I can't wait. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Can I get a picture really quick with you?
Yeah, of course.
Machine 1 year in panel for New York Comic Con. We have got a stacked panel for you here today. I'm Jim Biscardi from Image Comics, and we're going to go through and we'll introduce real quick. I got everyone's name on a list here so I don't miss anyone. Obviously, we have Mr. Jeff Johns. Bryan Hitch. We've got Jason Fabach. Jeremy Frank. Brad Anderson. Rob Lee. Francis Hannibal. Don Reese. Peter Stinberg. Peter Tomasi. Maytel Schultz. Alon McGee. There we go. All right, guys, we have so much stuff to get through today, and so we are just going to jump right into it. But first, I need to ask all of you guys, 1 year in, it's got to feel pretty amazing. Jeff, for you, pulling all of this together, working with everyone here, you have often said that it really does feel like a one big creative family to you. What is this? Seeing the books now out and all that, what's it been like for you? You get that right there.
Well, the books are so good. They look so
great.
good. It's just I always tell them it's up to me to screw it up because the art's always going to be beautiful. The coloring, the lettering, the editing, everything's great. It's cool just to see the books out. Like we had our summit this week, Tuesday and Wednesday in New York, and talk about the company and why we set out to do what we did, and then also like, hey, last year we set out to do this, and we looked at it like, oh yeah, we did what we set out to do, and the books are out, and we're excited about all the response. Thanks everybody for being here. As you walked in, they're like, oh, there's more people at this panel than last year, which is great because the books are out. But it feels great because this team is the best team in comics.
Anyone who else wants to kind of chime in on what it's been like year one? Bryan, Redcoat's been a ton of fun. What's it been like for you?
It's been just as much fun for us to make it as it is to read, probably more so actually, right? Because we know what's happening up to issue 50. So, that's how far we've plotted ahead. It's always happened to us together. Jeff, just before I got on the plane to come out, Jeff texted me and said, I think I've got some ideas that'll take us through issue 30. And then we went for a drink, and now we're sailing past 50. So, but we just have such a great time, both in how we work together and on the results. And we're constantly laughing at our own in comic and joke, but then we pull out, and you guys haven't seen it until the week after next, but issue 7 is as different as you could get from 1 through 6, and it's the perfect cap to the first arc. It's just, and we just choke up whenever we read that. So I couldn't be happier.
Love it. How about you, Gary?
Yeah, it's weird because obviously Jeff and I have been working on Geiger, so my day-to-day job hasn't really changed. But it's just like kind of in the background, this kind of, this thing just gets bigger and bigger and accelerating. A year ago when we announced, we didn't really have everything sure. The future, we didn't have everything planned out, but we were kind of, we were going in and we're winging a prayer and we're announcing the thing, and we were confident that it would work. But now we're like a year in, and it's kind of like a feeling of not so much relaxation, but kind of like genuine confidence now. It's not just, we trust ourselves to do this thing, and we think we're going to do a good thing, and we think it's going to work. It's work. And all we need to do now is keep on making it work.
That's phenomenal. Cool. Well, let's jump right in. On that, we've got Geiger right up front, and like I said, you guys have been. To me, the character design for Geiger is top tier for me. I love everything about the look, the feel of this book. Let's talk through, I guess, some of the stuff that is coming up. Obviously, November and December, you've got a little bit of you've got a guest artist in Paul Pelletier there. Walk us through what's happening in some of these issues.
Yeah, Geiger. Geiger is Gary's very protective of this book. Geiger is in search with Nate, the Nuclear Knight, and they're searching for this other glowing man that has apparently been cured, and so they're looking for a cure for Geiger's, I call them powers or curse. And we see more of that curse as they meet these kids and get pulled to this small town that has, like all small towns, a secret that affects Geiger. And we get introduced to the new king and some others after Geiger. But the storyline really starts to explore what Geiger's radioactivity inside him does to him, and it leads into the return of Junkyard Joe in issue 10. These are great covers. I haven't seen that middle cover. That cover's awesome. I always like seeing all these covers. I love that one there, 2-9. That's Nate, as Geiger attacks Nate, because he's lost control. But we're really excited about the book. Geiger's a fun character too. So we can go to the next one.
All right,
The
big moment, obviously.
This is really cool, and so Gary's already super far ahead. He's wrapping up issue 11. But I just want to point that cover on the far right there. That's by Dylan Dietrich. I think
Dylan's right over here. It's right there.
Dylan, he is an amazing artist, as you can see there, and he won the Joe Kubert Scholarship, that Ghost Machine Scholarship, and so congratulations to him. Junkyard Joe, and I think that's all that needs to be said. And there's a really big surprise at the end of this issue. But the thing that I love about Geiger, he's always a character that's trapped between what I call sympathy and savagery, because he cares so much about people, but he will mess you up if you hurt the people he cares about. And that's I think that's really visceral. That's what Gary and I tap into. We love the Incredible Hulk and all that things like that. And Geiger really. The fact that he can get so violent because he cares so much, I think is really interesting.
Gary, I'd love to ask for you when drawing Geiger, I feel like even when he is in his nuclear form, you're still able to convey an immense amount of emotion and things like that in a lot of these moments. What's that like for you, and what do you try to make sure that you do as you're putting some of those pages together?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's kind of body language, but the thing is just when I'm reading a script from Jeff, it kind of, the images are coming in and the emotions are coming in. So things like body language and stuff, but it's not really often a cerebral process. It's just I see him in my mind behaving in a certain way, reacting in a certain way. But Geiger, and when he's in the glowing man form, it's kind of like Junkyard Joe, in that you need to kind of, you can't like play around with eyebrows or anything, so you have to sort of recreate those things with lighting and also, like I said, body language. angles, head angles, positions, body positioning to try to get this idea that they're reacting in a human way.
Right, I love that. We do have some preview pages from 10 to show, which are just gorgeous.
And I just want to say to all of you who've been supporting the book since Geiger and Junkyard Joe, but also for all your support on Ghost Machine, it means a ton to us that you guys are willing to take a chance on these new characters and us, and and we're trying to deliver the best books we can when we say they're going to come out, and we're just really grateful that you guys are coming. But these pages are the same, and this is just Geiger and Junkyard Joe with the school bus in between them. It's pretty fun.
And that I believe.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, there's Simon Pure. There's Redcoat. We do have. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to spoil anything. But
sure,
you will. There are ties to obviously Geiger and Redcoat and Junkyard Joe.
Which is great. I mean, look, these are seeds that you mentioned kind of at the launch, and I'm starting to see them here, which is great. And so, got one more preview page there. And then with that, right, you guys have the deluxe hardcovers, which is like reading them issue by issue is phenomenal. And then when you get the urge to read them again, reading them in this form is phenomenal as well. And then we've got the Geiger volume to trade. We're on to Redcoat. Jeff and Bryan, why don't you give us where we're at?
This is issue 7 is kind of like, I would call it a breather issue, but not really. And then issue 8 is the most bloody, violent issue we could possibly come up with. But I'll let Bryan talk about this.
Well, how much do I get to say? Well, we thought we wanted to do something with these characters that are appearing in issue 9 issue 8, sorry, because they are an interesting part of American history. So from the inset, we wanted to do this, but positioning it for issue 8 acts as something of an emotional catharsis for what happens before that. So for us, it was again the lovely thing about this is the complete change of pace. Issue 8 is, should we say who's in it?
Yeah. So there's this. Oh, this issue. Go back a second. That's Johnny Apple's issue. It's a totally different issue. I mean, totally, and not that it's like. But issue 8. So there's this family called the Bloody Benders in history, and they ran this inn in Kansas, and whenever a traveler would come, they'd have them at dinner, and then they'd kill them, steal their stuff, and dump their body in the cellar. And as you know, Simon's often hungry. Yeah, and so they do this to the wrong traveler with Simon Pure because he doesn't stay dead. And so it's a really fun, well, I don't know, bloody fun. And then issue 9 is Simon's best friend, Johnny Appleseed, is introduced.
Which Jeff describes as him attempting to write our relationship into the comic. Into that one.
Yeah, well, it's basically, like that friend you like
get drunk with.
Yeah, get drunk with. It's just about Simon getting drunk with his best friend and what happens. And it's really fun. The cover's just beautiful. I love that Bryan's like, I'm going to do wraparound covers for the first 6, and then he keeps going.
No, Real Breeze has 120 something wraparound covers.
Yeah, you can see in the apple, those apples all represent different aspects of the stories, but you can see Geiger's in there, Junkyard Joe's in there, and some other, Wendigo, the Northerner, and things like that. And issue 10, I don't know if we have issue 10's cover. No, I love that cover by Mark Buckingham on the left there, a giant apple. And also that one with Simon Pure on the right.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. But the personality in the character, that's what makes it fun for Bryan and I to work on.
And there can be such an emotional and tonal shift between issues with the constant being Simon and his almost unchanging personality. And we can jump around through Simon's timeline and tell stories in pretty much any time period over several hundred years. So it gives us enormous latitude for the kind of stories we want to tell and the kind of emotions we want to put Simon through. Issue 10 is Aniope, for instance. 11 and 12. Should we say?
Oh yeah, 11 and 12 are the Northerner part 1 and part 2. So we introduced one of the big characters that's fundamental character to the Unnamed, who will be I don't want to say anything.
Yeah. I've been trading through secrets.
All right, with that, I think we'll keep moving along. We got Rook Exodus. Jay, I've got to ask, and it's probably like asking to choose which kid is your favorite, but I need to know which one of the wardens is the most fun to draw.
They're all really hard to draw.
That's your fault.
I wanted to do something that nobody else could ever do except for me.
Well done.
Every time I have to draw a splash of Rook, I'm like, why did I design so many belts and everything? I actually, Direwolf's a lot of fun to draw. Ursa is fun. I always like that because you just think of like the Hulk with a giant helmet and that giant axe. But they're all a lot of fun and fun to create. And we have some really cool characters coming up too in the next arc that are going to be pushing it again.
Right here it's issue 7.
It's covered issue 7.
So the way that our books work, like Geiger's monthly, Hyde Street's monthly, Rockefellers and Hornsby and Halo are monthly. Redcoat is basically monthly too. Mostly we do like 11 issues a year. With Rook, it's going to be told in chapters. So, because obviously Jay's artwork takes time, and we're working on the next story right now. So issues 1 through 6. I think issue 6 ships next week and closes the first arc, and then issue 7 will come back early next year. We're not going to renumber anything because we don't like that. We want all our books. Like we actually. It's funny because I think like 2 years from now we're going to have more books on higher numbers than Marvel and DC. Anyway, you can see there's this. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
I can't spoil it.
Yeah, it's a spoiler, but you get to see this little sneak peek.
We're going to see a lot. One of the things Jay and I always talk about is the wardens are so cool because the helmets have this thing called instinct influence. So when the wardens connect to animals to essentially control them, the animals actually, it's a two-way street, so they have this instinct that comes back and affects the humans that are wardens, and it's something that they weren't prepared for and they deal with. So this connectivity between the animals that they, their minds are open to, like Rook and his birds and Direwolf and her wolves, that instinct influence can sometimes be overpowering, and we really deal with that in this next story arc.
Issue 6 is a big, bombastic ending to our first arc, and Jeff sets up a lot of great little teasers for the next part and where we're kind of going with this. And another fun thing that we've been talking about playing around with too is like the environment. We went, Brad, look at the colors on this. Like the first arc, we used a lot of yellows and oranges and browns, and even in the last issue, Brad's like absolutely brilliant with his colors. We start with a yellowish in issue 1, 2, 3, and by the end, we're ending with purples, which is the complementary color on the color spectrum. And it's just such a beautiful like flow from beginning to end. And then in this, we're going into like some snow and all this kind of stuff. So we get to play with some different environments. Brad, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the color stuff that you've been doing in the book.
By the way, let me say really quickly, Brad had to raise his money because he lost his passport last night. He's Canadian. Yeah. So
anybody can put him up tonight.
Maybe a few weeks, who knows? You have to excuse my throat. I have convention throat and no sleep last night. So basically, but yeah, even what going off what Jay was saying is like my job.
Also he found the passport back.
Oh yeah. I actually wasn't going to be here this morning because I was looking for a place to get a Canadian passport. Awful morning. But I love seeing all the Ghost Machine gear out here. It's pretty awesome. I love it. Thank you guys. But what Jay was saying, it's neat where like what I do is my job isn't to compete with the art. I just want to kind of be part of it. I don't really want to be noticed as a color, so I want you guys to be kind of sucked into the story and not really notice the color. So when we shift to locations, I try to do like a subtle blend into, where Rook, they're going into the water location of the lush land from the yellow, dry, deserty stuff. It's just like a really easy transition down the river, and then all of a sudden you're in this new location. So
Brad's a master. I couldn't, like, the book would not be what it is without him. I consider him an equal part of the art. We are the artists on the book, and it's our artistic vision coming together that creates what the book is and the visuals of it, and it's incredible. Like, one of the best parts about this company is the fact that it feels like a true collaboration, not only between the art teams on each book, but with everybody. We're all so excited about each other's projects, and we get into each other's projects, and we're happy for the success of everybody. It's a different mindset and culture than any other, like, I've ever experienced with any other company. And we're not competing with each other to try and get the spotlight or anything. It's like I'm just like I can't wait for everybody to see Rockefellers and Hornsby and Halo, because they're just such incredible books, beautiful books, and I want those books to do just better than my book. And because we believe in the company and everything that everybody's doing. It's a true team. It's unlike anything that's going on in comics right now.
And I just want to give a shout out, because just like Jay says, he and Brad do the art. Like, Rob is my partner on the writing, because the lettering, like, I've had bad lettering on my books, and I've had good lettering, but Rob's a brilliant lettering. There's a reason that Rob is here, and there's a reason his name's on the books, because he incorporates the story into the art as much as Brad and Jay work together. And Rob's not just passive, it's notes, thoughts. Like, he always puts in that extra effort that you guys don't see, but it really matters. I don't ever do placement. I've never done placement in my career, because Rob's a master at that. But it, like, good lettering it's invisible, but it's there at the same time. And that's what he does. So thanks, Rob.
Rob, what is it like for you to, like, because you get to play in all the sandboxes, and so what is that like, for you, and what do you try and make sure you bring to each?
Well, usually being a letterer is like being mother of the groom. Your job is to show up on time and wear beige. But like Jeff was saying, it is such a collaboration, and there is interaction between the writer, the artist, the colorist. Brad and I are talking all the time. So it's an experience like I haven't had in my 30-some odd years, where there's a real true sense of connection to everybody on the team, and it just really stokes you. You sometimes in the old days you just felt like you were digging holes, and this is you really feel like you're creating something special, and you don't want to let anybody else down on the team. Everybody inspires everybody else.
But speaking as an artist on the book, there were too many times things fall off between pencil, ink, and colorist and letterer, but I know where I want the lettering to be in my head when I'm creating the pages. I kind of see the color too, but I almost never have to communicate that stuff with these guys, because the lettering is always where it needs to be. The color is always better than I could have come up with on my own. So it's not just a collaboration, it's the sense of absolute trust you have that if you have to communicate anything, it's a very easy thing to do. You're not fighting down that line of production to see a book that you're proud of at the end of the process. So it's always exciting to see when he's finished and read it when he's finished. But that's as much down to these guys as it is to the stuff we do on the front end.
Love that. Mom, look like you had something you wanted to say. Were you good? You want to move on? Oh,
yeah,
you picked up the mic.
I would say for Rob, it's better when the artist left room for the bottom.
All right. Sorry.
Sorry again.
Let's forward to Barrel, so we will keep the train rolling. Moving on to Hyde Street, which has been, the response to this book has been phenomenal. It's been a ton of fun to see everyone really get into it. Jeff, I know this is a book you've been excited about. Let's Let's talk about it.
Sure. So Hyde Street, for those who haven't checked it out, or those who have, obviously it just came out a couple weeks ago now. Yvonne and I have been working on it for quite a while. We actually had a day in Denver. We were there working on all these crazy characters. But essentially, you know, if you make a bad choice in life, by the way, it could be like if you kill somebody, or if you take your parking ticket off your car and put it on somebody else's, you might end up on Hyde Street. So the choices can be big or small. And it's all about the choices we make, but there's a place that you can turn the corner anywhere, in a city, in a small town, and end up on this street. And on this street there's what's called the residence. There's people there that are there for a reason that we'll find out in the book, but they'll lead you to damnation, and that includes this 8-year-old Boy Scout from 1955 named Frankie, who's one of my favorite characters to write, just because he's like that cover on the left. I actually have that original art I got from Yvonne. It's up in our office, Ghost Machine office, and this is just it's inspired by Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Lost, Black Mirror, like all Universal monsters. Like I grew up on those classic kind of Universal monsters, and horror, but it's more psychological, emotional, and kind of fun horror. But it's a very different book than the other books, which, you know, I love that the books are all very, very different. But it's gorgeous, and Yvonne's created so many wonderful characters. These are pages from issue 2. This is issue 2 focuses on, his name's Philip. They call him Pip Frankie Peabody. Is this Boy Scout who doesn't know how to tie knots, and there's a reason for that, and you kind of explore him. Yeah, the Boy Scouts make fun of him, so he burns the camp down. That's just the opening.
Well, I'd love to ask. I mean, because like with Hyde Street, you know, and like, you know, basically all of the main characters for all your books, 2 almost immediately, you know, recognizable and kind of like, you know, fan favorites with. You know, we don't get to learn much about Mr. X-Ray, you know, a bit, but I mean, you see him on the cover and it's immediately like, oh, he looks really cool. I want to learn more about it. Frankie's the same way.
Yeah, that's Yvonne's designs on Mr. X-Ray and Frankie.
And these characters are a big challenge because they don't have, they are ordinary people.
Right.
So to make Mr. X-Ray interesting, and you say, okay, he's unique, was really fun for me because I spent years drawing superheroes, also men and perfect women, and now I had the chance to work with a real challenge and to find the line between the ordinary and the uncomfortable, because you need to feel uncomfortable with them, and it's has been amazing for me, and Jeff knows how to create an emotional scale and improve the story. Well, it's amazing.
I think one of the things, I mean, Yvonne and I worked together for so long, and we did Blackest Night, Hoffman and the Trench. We love the horror stuff, and so getting back to it's been a lot of fun. But like having these horrible, monstrous characters that are still relatable, and you're kind of like this Boy Scout's really does bad stuff, but you're kind of like, well, the Boy Scouts did make fun of him, so they're really cruel in what he said. So when you see their camper, you're like, well, you shouldn't do that, but
yeah.
So he's like, I may not know how to tie knot, but I can start a fire.
Frankie is the kind of character. He's so cute, but at the same time, you start to read the issues that, oh my God, and you start to feel uncomfortable with what is happening, and he's not fun. He's a history behind him. His background it wasn't easy for him.
Right.
So you learn a lot about him and I was drawing, feeling the same thing. It's uncomfortable, but we need to do that. It's a whole story.
I think we've all wanted to burn someone's camp down at some point.
I've got to ask, is that a scout badge?
Yeah, so there's a few different, like Mr. X-Ray is kind of a normal guy, but he has these glasses, and they do help him see everybody's secrets,
sure,
which we'll learn about. And these badges that Frankie has, if you look close, You know, he has a steamroller badge he got from issue 1, who did deserve it. And yeah, he gets badges for all these. He loves getting his badges. But Frankie and Mr. X-Ray are the main 2 characters kind of competing for these souls here. But there's all these other characters, again, called the residents, that occupy this space that will come to meet and they have different relationships and wants, needs, and backstories of who they were before they came here and why they're here. And what here is, what is Hyde Street. There's this character called the Scorekeeper we introduced in issue 2, who's overseeing everything. You learn a little bit more about the secrets of what this place is. And we have a big story arc, but this is not, it's both an anthology but a serialized story at the same time. So when I say Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt, it still has a big story, like our Green Lantern Run built into a bigger thing, which I won't get into. But then issue 3 shows Frankie and Mr. X-Ray on, I don't know if you have the covers. Oh, there's some more pages. Yeah, that's where the cops go to his house and say, hey, you shouldn't make your dad so mad. Keep ice on that eye, kid.
Things that go right into yeah. So, Maytal, let's talk about Devour a bit. I know,
let me just set up one thing real quick. Maytal's an amazing writer. I work with her on Starville. She's an amazing writer. And this story she's come up with on Hyde Street, these things that happen on Hyde Street, it's a one-shot, and it really changes the POV to the victims of the residents, the victims of Hyde Street. It's an amazing story, but Maytal did a wonderful job on this book. It's a cool one-shot. You guys check it out just to see what she can actually pull off. It's a pretty awesome story.
Yeah, it's so Maytal, this obviously is a story that follows a character that I know you've spoken quite a bit about in some interviews and things like that. So let's talk about the character a little bit and what you wanted to make sure you got into this one shot.
Yeah, sure. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know what the story is about, Lily, who's our main character, is preparing for her wedding, and she's getting all this pressure from like super, super, super skinny mom and grandma to like lose weight and diet. And our tie-in kind of to Hyde Street is Miss Goodbody, who she's one of the residents on Hyde Street, and she runs this health store. And that's kind of how we link those two. So that's where we really focus on it. And there's a few Easter eggs in there relating to Hyde Street to kind of tie it back.
One of the things I love about this story is that it's just literally about a woman trying to fit in a wedding dress before her wedding day and what she'll do to do it. And I think it's really, and Layla Lee's did an amazing job on this art. She's a French artist.
I think what was really important for me to kind of talk about in this topic is it's very personal to me, but it's very personal to a lot of people. Like when I first spoke with Layla about it, we really connected over this topic, and I think most people are kind of a little afraid to talk about this, and it's something that we all kind of experience, this diet culture, this pressure to lose weight, this pressure to look a certain way, especially in preparation for some kind of a big event, So it's something that was really, really important to me to write about because it's something I've faced my whole life, that pressure. I understand it very well, and I think anybody can kind of relate to that, and I am very curious to see how it's received because of that personal element, and because I've talked to so many people who say like, oh, I understand this. And when I first spoke with Layla, she said the exact same thing, which I think was how she was really able to kind of bring these characters to life, because she gets it. She totally gets it. And she did an incredible job.
Yeah, I'd say so Miss Goodbye, again, this is told from the point of view of one of the victims of Hyde Street, and you'll see Miss Goodbye in it a little bit, and then you'll get her story in Hyde Street number 5. She's a nutritionist or an aerobics exerciser from 1983. So she's full of energy and pep, and you can do it attitude. But she's got a lot of dark secrets too.
Yeah. I mean, look, what I love about it, just even this spread that we have up right here, right? You can tell it's firmly set within Hyde Street. You've got Frankie, you've got Mr. X-Ray in there too, and then your story just gets right on rolling. Is there anything as you were telling the story that you think maybe even surprised you as you really just started to dive in?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when I came up with this idea, I was like, okay, I've got the whole thing figured out, in the sense of my own, body issues and whatever that is. And as I'm writing, I'm like, oh, it's taking a completely new form. Because when I first started, I thought it was kind of about this generational trauma that we all kind of face when you have pressure coming from your family to change and look a certain way. But then I realized it's really about your inner demons. It's about my inner demons. It's about everybody's inner demons that you're seeing when you look in the mirror. And that's kind of what I discovered as I was writing it. I couldn't say that I really knew that when I first started it, because I thought I had it kind of all figured out in that way.
Great. All right, we're gonna keep on rolling. Sorry, one more set of preview pages here. Gorgeous. And then rolling right into Family Odysseys. You guys, we're just gonna start with the Rockefellers. Guys, I know you have been just itching to talk about this.
And for all the stars of the line, it was great to be out for all you guys to have seen the first issue for the show. But we'll be out in a month, and it'll be worth the wait.
Well, we can see right now, like this gentleman right here has an ash can in his hand.
At the booth.
Yeah, and honestly, for a family book, we figured it would be also advantageous that we're coming out right around the time that you guys have your Thanksgiving. So
he's Canadian.
We had a Thanksgiving. So we beat you guys by like a month. Yeah, no, it's a perfect time to introduce this family from the future, and here they are living somewhere in Washington where the leaves are beginning to turn, and yet they're going to be meeting their neighbors for the first time with a pool party. Because guess what? They have the technology to tweak things around and do things that common.
Keep things on the warmer side.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, because it's a book about this family who escapes the future and is hiding in the present in order to escape certain.
A very special witness protection program that's based in the future and is utilizing many different heroes to hide people. And of course, we're following this family for the first time, so it's pretty cool.
So we've got some more covers to show here. Guys, as we go through some of these, and we've got some preview pages, can you give us a little bit more about just the genesis of it, right? Like where, coming up with the idea and the gorgeous interior pages here.
I love how, Francis, I love how you incorporated the title like that. Like old school comics, like so cool.
Yeah, but sorry. It was more just like, I'd love to hear more just about, putting this together and what you're excited for fans to see as they, hit the ground running with that first issue.
I mean, a lot of it was really just Pete and I talking, when I first found out about this massive team forming, I wanted to see a way into it from the stories side as well. So I think Pete and I spoke on the phone for like 2 hours. I said, okay, this is me. This Pete, not the other Pete. The other Pete came on as well. But it was one of those things where, where my career was headed and what I was feeling personally at the time, and currently, having become a father, it was important for me to tell things that I feel are current and poignant in my current state of that time. And I could not think of a better person to write my family. So when we started talking, I'm like, hey, listen, let's do something. Let's come up with something that people of all ages can really read and delve into. But at the same time, we wanted a book that what we call a gateway book, something that if you're a comic shop, you could just easily grab off the shelf, and if you were like a 60-year-old person or a 10-year-old person, you could easily give it to them and confidently say that the contents of this book would be entertaining and engaging for those specific, like a broader audience, right? Especially since this is essentially an adventure science fiction book, right? And I think that's kind of at the core of the conceit, but with the family line, really this is a line of books that focus on family. It's not like a kid's line, but it is focusing firmly on stories that revolve around family and the challenges that we face.
It's not a juvenile book, it's a family book. That's the theme of the book, dealing with families and the stories they find themselves put into.
If I can chime in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I've known Pete here probably longer than anybody else on this panel. We started together at DC 32, 33 years ago, back when we were both in our 20s. And now we're definitely not in our 20s. But I've seen the changes. I've seen what's happened once he became a father. And I've said this to him, and I feel the same way about Jeff. How fatherhood has made them stronger writers. Something happens, I think, where you become, it's not just about you become more generous. And it certainly shows in Pete's work. And I know Francis feels the same way about his family, and that comes through. It really manifests itself in the comic book without being a sappy, leave with the beaver type of situation.
Yeah, we definitely, when you write a book like that, like I did in Batman and Robin and Super Sons and all this stuff from the past, and even in this book now, it's incorporating the real small moments. Action is great. I love action. I love writing action, and Francis and I are having a blast doing that. But when we can come up with really cool, small human moments that everybody can relate to, that's what makes these books really special for us.
One of the things I've worked with Pete a long time, but one of the things I've always admired about Pete's writing, and it's always inspiring. Like, I love reading these books because they're so good. I mean, look at that; those pages are insane. But the emotion in Pete's books and the small character moments he does do that become big moments because they are the big moments. Pete knows this. I've always, since we worked on Green Lantern and Corey together and went back and forth, we've had such a great, I think, just relationship working next to each other on books like this, because I find so much in his work that, I get excited about writing. He makes me excited to write. And there's very few writers I read that I'm consistently inspired by. But that is, Pete, what makes your book so good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. To Hornsby and Halo. So Peter, obviously, why don't you give us the premise for this a bit, and then when Pete will talk a bit about, what it takes to put it together.
Yeah, sure. It was one of those things I had in my notebook of ideas for a long time, and it was about a heaven and hell battle that's been going on for obviously millennia, and they were tired of all the destruction and the horrors, so they decided it was time to switch things up a little bit. So our little kids, infants, Zach and Rose, are traded to a family up on Earth to sort of temperate the future rulers of heaven and hell, to give them sort of both a distinctive perspective to see what the other side feels and be a little bit more empathetic when it's time for their rule. And really then, of course, the main thing is that now they're up on Earth, but of course they're each an angel and a demon, but they're also dealing with what it's like to be a 13-year-old. And that's either probably worse than being an angel and a demon.
Or it's the equivalent of being both.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then just having, just having the luck again to work with an old friend, Peter Snyberg, who we did Light Brigade together and The Mighty together, and I was an editor on Starman when he was drawing it, and I know there was just, all these artists in this company are just amazing, because the best thing about them is the humanization of it, because even when you look at these pages that you're looking at now, I mean, there's such a life to them that you just don't get with a lot of comics today, and all the guys in these teams are just bringing it, and Peter is, I've really just always enjoyed working with him, and it's been great talking to him on the phone, aside from the hour, time difference in Denmark. But otherwise, we have a blast working together. And
what Pete said, it's been, it still is, and hopefully will be for a long time yet, an absolute joy to work on this book. I've always had a fondness for stories about kids and stories with some humor in them. So this is why it's a book with a lot of action, and it has the family drama and all that. It's also a fun book. It's going to be very unique. I don't think there's anything quite like it at the moment, or has been for that matter. So I'm very I hope people will, give it a warm welcome. And
yeah, I think you'll be really surprised. There's a lot of empathy and there's a lot of fun, but there's also a lot of, to watch these kids with their respective families. When you see the angel is living with a family that's sort of, let's just say, not the best kind of family in the world, but he's learning from that. But at the same time, they're going through so much. There's little bits of tragedy, there's little bits of horror. So it's a real big mix. There's a spread from the first issue. It kind of sets the tone right away, right? You know, like, okay, this is it's about kids, but it's also about a lot of bigger stuff, and it's really epic and it's wonderfully mundane. I think you'll really, if you give it a crack, I think you'll really enjoy it and get pulled along.
Can you go back for a second to the first page? I just love on the left there. There's Rose, and she's I love when she's grabbing these horrible demon creatures are coming for this little demon baby, and she just grabs him and plays with him and kills him. But one of I just think these are beautiful pages. I worked with Peter in the past before too on JSA and some Flash issues, and always was amazed by his work. But one of the things I love about all our books is the heart in that, because there's heart in this team. Like, this team is all heart. So even Hyde Street, as dark as it gets, or any of our books, Rook is kind of big and bombastic as it gets too. Like, every one of these books just has so much heart in there, because it's coming from heart. It's coming from us, and it's coming from the reason we made this is because we want to put something good out in the world that we believed in, that we wanted to create. Like, nobody at DC or Marvel would ever greenlit Redcoat. Like a book in the 1890s. No, it has to take place today. And
there has to be robots.
Yeah. It just wouldn't exist. And Batman has to be in it.
All right. Then with that, I think Jeff, we've got some little sneak teases and peeks for stuff coming up in the year, and so the first one is a book called First Ghost.
Yeah, I know people have been asking about when Brad's book is coming out. We're working on it right now. We have the artist, who's a huge artist. We can't announce it yet because we want to show the cover that they're working on. But First Ghost does tie into the Unnamed universe, which is Redcoat and Junkyard Joe and Geiger. There is going to be a Redcoat First Ghost issue next year too that will see Simon at the White House when it was burned down. Wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault, and it kind of is. It wasn't. As Simon usually says, it's usually my fault, but this time it's not this way. But so First Ghost will take, it's about Brad's writing a great story with this amazing artist, but it takes place in the Unnamed universe, and although it's its own story, it will further explore of what we're building in this kind of hidden American mythology, these American myths. But that will come out next. Mike, what month is that? Where's Mike at?
I'm over here. I'm talking in a month.
Okay, so it's out next year, so as soon as it's strong. But it is an amazing. The artist is great, and it's definitely going to be worth the wait. But we're, as you guys know, our art is the best in the business. There's no across the board. Our art average is superior to everybody, and I often say it's up to me to screw the book up, because everyone knows if Gary draws an issue of Geiger, it's going to look amazing, and Brad's going to color it, and everyone will complain about me.
I have to ask, and Bryan, were you guys big American history buffs before you guys started working on this stuff, or have you become giant American history buffs?
It's fun. I've always liked American history a lot, and to tell from 1776 with Simon when during the American Revolution to the end of, essentially the end of America, and 25 years from now in Geiger's time. It's just cool to explore that American timeline. I've always liked American history. I've always liked American things. But the most fun about it was going, well, I know who Johnny Appleseed was, or Benedict Arnold, but what were they like? Well, Benedict Arnold was kind of a prick. Johnny Appleseed was kind of a fun, goofy guy that had a lot of heart, that really cared about other people and liked a good cider. Giving these characters personality as we go through history is what's been really fun, because we know who Albert Einstein is, but now we really know who he is, and we're going to get to know him even further, and see, just the people they were instead of just the names.
the faces and paintings and pictures and things like that.
How would you like?
Well, I have a uniquely British take on American history. It's the book. I love history. To be honest, it's interesting. I've said this before, but I never see it as a period piece because with the characters, it's always the modern age, whatever time it's setting. And you can look at Star Wars as a period piece, not just because it was a long time ago, but because if you stop thinking about it as clothing, you can look at it as costuming. But whether you're drawing Simon's clothing or Luke Skywalker's clothing, it's got to just feel like it's real stuff, not a Batman suit. So I just love immersing myself in the period and trying to make it feel like it's modern and fresh and it reads like a modern comic, because whatever time period you're in, it's got to feel like it's a modern thing. But I am learning some stuff about some of these characters, but I just love research, so it's always fun for me.
Yeah, you don't really know Benedict Arnold, right?
No, only by reputation, but not.
But he's a hero where you come from.
Yes, you colonists always bring that up.
Us colonists.
We'll get to the last.
You know, I'll just say this just because it's funny when we were talking about, because all these books come from somewhere, like obviously, you know, emotionally, what we like Maytal's story is obviously personal. Heat, mine, all of our stories are come from a personal place. And with Redcoat, it was really, you know, how long does it take somebody to change and become a better human being? And we thought, well, more than a lifetime. And that's the only lifetimes it takes. But it did come from these conversations, and then we picked, like, we're like, well, who's the most unlikable, undeserving immortal? And that'd be
an Englishman.
All right, and then the last tease that we've got is the next in the Hyde Street. Well, that's what Lamont. We've got you here to talk about the Solace.
Yes, you do. I want Jeff to start this because I don't know what I can and cannot say.
Well, Solace will be out. We can't say a lot about it either, but Solace will be out next year, probably around Hyde Street. I'd say 10, issue 10 or so. But these stories that, Hyde Street explores the residents of Hyde Street, and these other books explore those affected by them through their POV, like Devour is a one-shot, Solace is a miniseries. But the story that Lamont pitched, I'll just say this, I don't know if Brian Cunningham, our editor-in-chief, is here. I think he might be at the booth working. But Lamont wrote the first issue, and I was like, look, you could, because how long can it be? Well, 30 pages max, right? And Brian and I and it's a couple months go by, Brian and I get the first issue, 64 pages.
Yes, I did that.
and I called Brian, I'm like, and Lamont knows this, I called Brian, I'm like, 64 pages? Like, well, I guess we'll just have to divide in 2 issues, like we'll have to read and talk about it. And I read that night, so did Brian the next day. The next day I called Brian, I go, it was kind of quiet, I was like, I read the script, he goes, me too. And I said, this is really good, right? He said, it's really good. I said, and I called him on, I said, just don't do that again. So the first issue is 64 pages. But it's really, really good, and it's so unique and yet familiar at the same time. And again, it's a very personal story, like it's about something. And so as fun as these books are, they all come from something we want to explore as people, and by not, love superheroes, but by not tackling superheroes over and over and over, and doing stories that can have a beginning, middle, and an ending that actually affects character. You can tell different types of stories, and Solace is it. But it's a brilliant, brilliant script. For those who don't know, Lamont comes from television mostly. He's written a few comics, but I met him through Black Lightning, and he's a great writer. So this is, I don't know how much we can say about the story because it's so early, but there is a character called the Colonist that is listed in the back of Hyde Street, #1, that plays a very significant role in the book.
I will dance around this very carefully. So, thanks, Jeff. I will send you the check later. So this book,
I said
I'll Venmo you. So this book, like Maytal's book, is very personal to me. I literally cannot tell you anything about it except it's amazing. But all the books have heart and action and drama, and like this whole group up here, it's about our lived experiences and what we want to share with you guys. So when you read The Solace, know that first of all, I was a history major at UCLA, so this is all, it's all about history, people. Because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So my book is about family and what you would do for family, the lengths you would go, the times and places and the travels you will go to just right or wrong. But I cannot tell you anything else except, please buy my book.
I would say one more thing too about not necessarily just the souls, but when we set out to do this, we really creatively we said, well, what kind of stories do you want to tell and what genres, and it ended up organically becoming four corners of reality, totally. So we have our horror corner with Hyde Street and Solace and Devour. We have our action adventure corner with Geiger and Redcoat. We have our science fiction corner with Rook Exodus, and then we have our family adventure corner with Rockefellers and Hornsby and Halo. And it was really important for us to let the books be the best books they could be individually. When I grew up, I loved reading like the original Vertigo line, like Changing Man, Animal Man, and all those. And they had such a distinct imprint. And the original image creators had Spawn and Savage Dragon, and I think those were also inspiring for us. So we're just trying to, all our books, we're trying to make them unique, character-driven, and really damn good. But that's where all this came from. Is just trying to explore things we wanted to explore that we thought everyone else would relate to.
Can I say one thing?
Go for it.
I would just like to say thanks to all you guys up here for allowing me to play in this superhero summer camp. It's been a dream of mine. I've grown up with you guys. Not to age any of me. There's no ageism here. But I just want to say how much I love you guys, and I really appreciate everything you guys have done, will do, and continue to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the Ghost Machine.
Thank you all guys for coming. We really appreciate your support.
Thanks guys, thank you. We're doing a signing up booth 12:30. Bring your Ghost Machine books.
Be there.
And DC and Marvel.